I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 132, Grief and Despair. Your life does not have to revolve around your husband's pornography addiction. You are not defined by his choices or by what he sees on a screen. You are not just the porn addict's wife. You are so much more. In this podcast, I'm going to teach you how to go from handling it to healed, because I've been where you are and you don't have to stay there. My name is Jolene Wynn. I'm a member of the LDS faith, a certified life coach, and a wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the porn addict's wife. Hello, my ladies. How are you? I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. How was it? I hope it was wonderful. I am recording this early. Again, I had planned to wait until I came back from Florida after Thanksgiving and record a podcast for y'all, but I just had so many thoughts, and one of them was about this topic in particular, and so I thought I would go ahead and record this podcast episode for you guys. You guys ready? Today I want to talk about grief and despair. How depressing does that sound? But I promise it's not going to be as depressing as it sounds. I just got off a coaching call, a one-on-one call with one of my clients, and this came up on the call, and I wanted to bring it up because it's not the first time that this has happened. If you guys have ever thought something like, this isn't how I thought my life would go, or this isn't what I had dreamed about. On the call, my client actually brought up the song I Dreamed a Dream from Les Mis. You guys know that song? I dreamed a dream in days gone by. And she's talking about the life that she had dreamed for herself, how she thought it was going to go, and how nothing has gone according to like that. And it says, life has killed the dream I dreamed. It's kind of a sad song, but it's a beautiful ballad. Go listen to it. Okay. And my client was just mentioning that's kind of how she feels a little bit. She had this idea of how her marriage would go, of the relationship they would have, of what it would be like, the things they would share in common. And even when they started off in their marriage, in their particular relationship, they started off on the same foot. They started off agreeing to the dream. And yet now they're here and he has gone a different way and made different choices. And so she is left feeling like this is not the dream that she'd always dreamed for her life. And this is what I told her. I said, I don't want you to talk yourself out of it. Okay. Sometimes we try to do that. We try to talk our way out of how we're feeling, and it's never going to work because they're two different systems. There's your logical and then there's your emotional. Okay. And when you try to logic your way out of your emotions, it's never going to work because they're not the same. Okay. It's just FYI, side note. Okay. So I said, I want you to give yourself permission to feel however it is you're feeling, and I want you to allow yourself to grieve, okay? When we have a dream, when we have a vision for the way that our life is going to go or the way our relationship is going to be, then it's a very real thing to us. Our brain actually creates it almost like it's real, right? We have thoughts, we envision it. We might have different scenarios played out in our brain of how we think that life is going to go, right? Did you guys ever do this when you were young and you wrote your name and your boyfriend's last name together on a piece of paper and you thought, I wonder where we'll live and maybe it'll look like this and maybe we'll have this many kids. And you kind of in a very real way envision certain circumstances that might happen. You create this dream until it becomes quite vivid and almost real. And so what is important to do is to allow yourself to mourn and grieve the loss of that dream. Okay? When you have that dream of how you thought your marriage would go or the relationship you would have, then it's important to allow yourself the time and the emotional space to grieve. Now, what I want to offer is that you don't allow your grief to become despair. And that's really what I want to talk about today, is the difference between the two. Grief is something that I think is actually quite necessary and very beautiful. It's emotion, you guys. Grief is just an emotion that you process, right? You grieve the loss of something, a dream. You grieve the loss of the dream of what could have been, and that is okay as long as you don't stay there. Grief is temporary. Despair is something that we often step into when we allow hopelessness to come next. Okay? It's a very slight nuance. There's a slight little difference, but I really want you guys to pay attention to it, okay? Grief allows for the future. Grief allows opportunity in the future. It's a very temporary thing. Despair feels more permanent. This is when our brain shifts from I am grieving something that I lost into I'm never going to have anything else. Do you guys see the difference? Let me give you guys a couple of thoughts and maybe this will help clarify it. I talk about this in my book. However, I want to bring it up here. So if you haven't read my book, you can go read it. You can get it on my website and make a great Christmas gift and a stocking stuffer. But in my book, I talk about how when I had my first miscarriage, and it was the first time in our marriage that I had felt very separated and alone from Rob. I felt like he didn't get it. And one of the ways that I felt like he didn't get it is he kept wanting to try to make me feel better by talking about the next one. Right? That's what he would try and say is like, it's okay. You're young. Your body is going to get better and recover from this and we can try again. And I didn't want to talk about the next baby. I wanted to talk about this one. I didn't want to think about getting pregnant again. I wanted to mourn. I wanted to grieve the loss of this one. I wanted to grieve the loss of this dream before I allowed myself and moved on to the next dream. Do you guys see what I'm saying? And that was very important. And it was very interesting and fascinating for me to sit there in those moments and recognize how important it is to grieve. And any of you guys who have ever lost a loved one know this. People who try to move on too quickly or shove down their emotions and not process the grief, it ends up hurting them in the long run. Okay? When you don't properly allow yourself to process the emotions of grief, of losing a dream, and that dream could be the relationship that you thought you were going to have or the life that you thought you were going to live, then what happens is it ends up building resentment and bitterness later. That's what it usually turns out as. When we don't process it, it festers and it boils below the surface and it comes up later. Okay? So I want you guys I want to give you permission to grieve the loss of the dream, whatever that dream looked like. Okay? And then what I want to caution you guys against is losing your grief and allowing it to turn into despair with hopelessness. There is always hope for another dream. This is the one I brought up on the call today with my client. If you guys have ever watched Tangled, that's the whole premise of the movie is she has a dream. She wants to go see these floating lanterns. And she finally gets the opportunity to do it. And she's standing there and he says, "What's the matter?" And she says, "I'm terrified." Because she says, "What if it's not everything I hoped it would be?" And he says, "It will be." And she's like, "And what if it is? I'm equally terrified that the dream that I've been dreaming of my whole life is going to be as incredible as I think it could be, because then that's the end of my dream." And he says, "Well, then there's the beauty of it. Then you get to go choose a new dream." And I want you guys to notice how hopeful that is. Even though we grieve the loss of the dream that we had, it doesn't mean that we can't create a new one once we're done grieving. We can still hold space for the potential dream that hasn't even been thought of yet. And how beautiful is that? That's one of the beauties of being human, is that we get to choose our dreams. We get to decide, we get to come up with a dream. And what if there's an even better dream that you haven't even thought of yet? Can you imagine? I know sometimes it's hard for our brain to imagine something even better than what we've already thought of. But if that were true, then everything that had ever been created would have already been created. There would be no new creations because nobody would have any new dreams. There are so many dreams out there that haven't even been thought of yet. So many potential results that you could create in your life that you haven't even considered. And what if they're all possible? What if there is a vision for your life, a reality for your future that you haven't even considered yet because you were so stuck on creating the dream that you'd already thought of? So let go of the dream that you already thought of. Grieve it. Allow yourself to feel all the feelings of loss. But then don't give way to despair. Keep the hope for the future and allow yourself the gift of creating a new dream, even if that dream isn't at all what you thought it would be like. Give yourself permission. What if? What if is a beautiful, beautiful open-ended possibility. It's a wonderful phrase that I want you guys to really consider. What if there is a dream that's even better than the one I had for myself, and I haven't even thought of it yet? What if my future looks even better than what it does right now? I give you guys permission to grieve, but I also give you permission to hold space for even more opportunities in the future. Because you deserve it, ladies. Your dreams are all your thoughts and feelings and hopes and desires and wishes, and they're all created in your mind. So why not create more of them? I love you, ladies, so much. I hope you guys have a great week. Keep your dreams alive, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Take care. All right, ladies, if you are loving what you are learning on the podcast, I want to invite you to come join my coaching program. This is where we take it to the next level and we actually start applying and learning the how of moving forward. This podcast has taught you the what, and the coaching program is where you're going to learn the how. This is where you learn how to actually start moving forward, process all of that pain that you feel, and let it go once and for all. If you are ready to finally move forward and stop living a life that revolves around your husband's pornography addiction, then I want to invite you to come join me today. Just head to my website, joleneWynn.com, and sign up today. I can't wait to see you there.